Great to see everybody again. Hi, hi. You're becoming familiar now. I'm seeing familiar faces. And thanks all of you also for writing. It's been nice to be in touch with several of you.
Is everybody in? Somebody's got their computer or their TV on.
New York one, it's on always. I'm turning it off now.
Of course it's you.
I'm a newsaholic.
Well, is everybody in, Melanie?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. Hi, everybody. Welcome to the third installment of our Zintern program. We're very, very honored today for our two illustrious czars that are speaking on the subject of beauty. The first is Lauren Kahn, who is the CEO and founder of K3 Media with a very extensive beauty background. And Megan O'Brien, a national beauty expert that has worked on both the PR side and the editorial side. So this should be a very interesting conversation. Thank you all for coming. Thank you, Lauren, and thank you, Megan, for doing this. Thank you, Sally and Melanie again.
Thank you. I think beauty's a great theme to have today. Go for it, guys.
Well, thanks for having us. Megan and I are super excited. Megan and I, just to give you guys a little bit of background, have known each other for decades. And one thing I think that would be great to start this whole sort of conversation is that it not only is very possible, but it's, for me personally, I love having friends who are not competitors. You know, Megan and I work together in so many different capacities. If there's things that I can't do that I know Megan can do, and vice versa, we coordinate all the time, we collaborate, we talk. So I don't want any of you guys to think that, you know, that beauty is like a cutthroat, crazy, like, oh my God, Megan's sitting there and I don't want to say anything because I don't want her to know anything. It's so supportive, and it's so, you know, we became so close through the beauty industry, which I personally love.
Yeah, so Lauren and I think we met through a gifting suite about 15 years ago, maybe, right?
Yep. Yeah, maybe even more.
Right. So actually, I just have nothing really but to say yes. That's totally, like Lauren and I have a client, for instance, that's trying to get verified on TikTok. I have no idea how to do that, but I knew Lauren would know. If it's kind of like, if I don't know how to do it, I know Lauren knows how to do it, or knows someone who knows how to do it. I think she kind of feels the same way with me. And it's also like your Rolodex can only be so large. You know what I'm saying? Like you can only know so many people. And I kind of feel like, you know, I've had clients leave because they leave because I've exhausted my Rolodex. I literally don't really have anyone else or anywhere else to place them or anything else I can get. So it's always nice where if I'm doing an event in a situation in New York, or Florida's doing one, you know, where I'm based in LA, where we can reach out to each other. Because I mean, the industry is really big, and while you can be very connected, it's pretty impossible to know everybody. You know, so I kind of like the divide and conquer.
And just to interrupt for a second, all the interns, please text in any questions you have, and we'll get to it towards the end. Okay, thank you.
So I think, like, beyond what Megan and I were saying about that is that internships are so super important, not specifically for what you think you want to do, but also what you don't want to do. So when I was younger, I mean, I'm 1,000 years old, and when I was younger, the internships that I did were like in advertising agencies, and I worked for a Saatchi and Saatchi company, for a giant PR agency that did McDonald's and Slim Fast and the World Gold Council, and I was on all of these accounts, and I didn't know what I wanted to do. So, you know, taking internships and figuring it out is not a bad thing, especially once you graduate from school, because, you know, I mean, in a perfect non-COVID world, you would want to do internships while you're in college. But now, you know, remote internships, I mean, right now I have a remote internship. I have 2 interns that work for me. Both are remote. We try to teach them as much as we can. And it's great to understand, you know, what you do want and what you don't want. So like, I knew that like working on some of these big giant corporate accounts sort of bored me a little bit. You know, there were certain accounts like, you know, I launched Lycra to the world. So you're welcome, everybody. But I knew at that point, like I did not want to do sort of very technical PR. I didn't want to do, like, I loved fashion, but like I saw sort of the crazy frenzy of what fashion PR was. And I knew that that specifically wasn't for me. So once you guys kind of figure out like what you want and what you don't want, then finding that internship then becomes like a funnel, right? So it's like, do I want a giant, you know, big giant agency that has hundreds of people all over the world? Or do I want a boutique agency where maybe I can get kind of a more experience versus if I were in like a big giant agency? Does that make sense to you guys? So I think that looking for an internship where you're not just, because for me, again, when I was an intern, I was so excited. And then I remember, you know, they said, okay, we're going to have a meeting. And I was so excited about the meeting. And, you know, they said, here's how many people, and here's what you should order from Pax Gourmet, which is a New York City, you know, like deli kind of thing. And here's what we need in terms of pads and pens and all of that. And I did all of it. And I was so excited. And I had like good clothes on and my hair looked really good. And I brought everything into the meeting, and then they were like, okay, thanks. And I was like, oh God, like, so, you know, my advice is always look for an internship where they're really going to teach you, and they're going to include you, and they're going to give you work that you're going to sink your teeth into and really learn. Because other than that, like, what are you learning from, you know, from bringing coffee into a meeting? You're not really learning anything. So I think those are the questions that you need to ask of the internships that you guys apply for. You know, don't just figure out like what it's for, but ask questions about like, what am I going to be doing? Am I going to be, you know, really working, or is this more of an administrative position? And then that's going to give you kind of like a good overall view of, you know, what you can expect from that internship too. Every agency is different.
Working in an internship in beauty per se, what would you say are some of the things that an intern might expect? What are the categories that might be included in beauty? Can you break it down for us a bit?
Yeah, absolutely. So again, this is going to change. So bigger agencies, you know, might have divisions, and you might be an intern in a specific division. But for me, I own a boutique agency. So it's like kind of all hands on deck for everything. So for me, my interns do everything from, you know, researching influencers, helping us to build media lists, writing press materials. Sometimes I'll have them pitch if they feel confident enough. I'll give them like a category, like, okay, you guys, you're going to pitch for, I want you to pitch this client and this product. And you're going to do everything from research to writing to pitching the national newspapers. And we'll show them exactly how to do everything.
And when you say beauty, is it cosmetics? Is it hair products?
Yes, it's everything. So we cover beauty, grooming, health and wellness, fragrance, cosmetics, men's grooming, hair, supplements. It's a little bit of everything.
And is the men's industry in beauty very different from the women's industry in beauty?
I would say that the men's industry isn't very different. It's much smaller. Yeah. So, you know, it's much more targeted. You know, when we reach out to, you know, for our men's grooming section, what we try to do is we try to be really strategic. So yeah, we're going to reach out to Esquire and to Men's Journal and to Playboy and all of the men's publications and men's sites. But then we're also going to reach out to the people that we know buy the products, right? Because we all know that our moms bought for our dads and our brothers and our sons and everybody else. So the primary purchaser of men's products is typically women. So you just have to be strategic with how you're pitching to what specific category. And that goes like kind of, I mean, and Megan can jump in here too. That kind of goes for all beauty. So like when I'm pitching fragrance, I know that there's not going to be that many fragrance stories throughout the year. But when I'm pitching cosmetics or when I'm pitching hair care, there's going to be a ton of stories all the time. So it's going to be easier to do that. It's going to be much more challenging to pitch fragrance.
I think
Why do you
also
think
it's
Why do
gotten,
why do you think there's so few fragrance stories?
oh,
I mean, my opinion is that, you know, there's only so much interest in, like back in the day, we used to say there was one or possibly two fragrance stories a year in print books. But now that there's online, it's a little bit different. Like there are blogs that are dedicated to fragrances. So it's a little bit different. But when you're looking at really, I mean, now your clients are still wanting, even though the print media is kind of dying and digital is really on the, you know, is really where it's at. The print publications only have a certain amount of pages. So they can only, you know, and they base that on advertising. So if most of the advertising is coming from beauty or hair or, you know, let's say skin or bath and body products, that's where the bulk of the articles are going to come from. If there's not a lot of advertising for fragrances, they're going to only put in a couple fragrance stories a year.
but if you have if you do have a fragrance client that you're working on, I found the Fragrance Foundation is pretty helpful. Just throwing that out there.
Yeah, absolutely.
Fragrance Foundation, they're pretty good. And
What is the Fragrance Foundation?
they do awards for like best packaging, you know, up and coming, best indie brand. So that's a good way to get some fragrance stories out of that too. If just saying, if you have a fragrance account you're working on, Fragrance Foundation is a good place to reach out to. And as far as what Lauren is saying with the men's and the, it's gotten harder, I think, to pitch because there are less people, right? I mean, people got laid off or whatever, but on the flip side, it also kind of makes it easier to pitch because the person, maybe there were like 5 people writing about beauty and men's and this and that. Now there's like 3. So while it's gotten a little bit, the pyramid has gotten, anyway, it's easier. The same person that's going to write about lip gloss is probably the same person that's going to be writing about the men's hair gel. So
and I think that goes for .coms too. So, you know, before when there were no .coms, you would have, let's use Allure magazine as a good example, right? Allure magazine used to have, like, when in the heyday, they would have about 40 people on staff, and each person would be responsible for a different sort of genre of beauty, right? So there would be like the person who's responsible for hair, and then another person who's responsible for skin. And as we've kind of made our way from back then to today, now you have a really skeleton crew for the magazine, but then the same people are writing for the .coms, as Megan was just saying. So one person, you know, when you're pitching one person, you can get a print placement out of it, and you can also get a .com placement out of it as well.
right. And people, I think, still think print is so sexy. They love print, but just for my clients, they see more sales digital.
Absolutely.
That is so interesting. So you're actually saying, because I deal with Europe a lot and Europeans couldn't care less about online. They only want print. But what you're saying is if you have a break and you get a post on an influencer does one of your fragrances, somebody will go directly and buy that from
1,000%. Yes. And just look at the numbers. The numbers of print publications now, like Allure, we'll take that, right? You can look at Allure magazine, and their circulation for their print publication, I think, is down maybe less than 700,000 now, but their allure.com, their unique visitors per month, or UVPM, is in excess of over like 1.2 million now. Right. So you can definitely see where the balance has shifted.
And I think the buying community, the buying power is in the numbers, and the young people who are reading everything only online are certainly the ones that are looking
people, right. The demographic is not buying. I mean, look at you guys, right? Like, you're younger. So I have a daughter who's 24. I don't think she has ever bought a physical magazine. She's online, right? So like, whenever you're surfing, whether you're on TikTok or whether you're and that'll bring us to, you know, working with influencers in a couple minutes. We'll discuss that. But, you know, while you're surfing on your phone, 99%, right? You guys are on your phones. It's like way easier that when you're on Twitter and you see an article and you click on it, it's going to bring you to Allure magazine, and that's going to bring you right to my client.
Right.
So it all kind of flows social media wise versus back in the day when we had a print magazine, you had to physically buy the magazine and look and then pick up the phone and order or go to Macy's or go to Bloomingdale's or go to Sephora.
The page. I used to rip out the page. So
Right.
Totally.
So yeah, rip out the page days are gone. It's just easier for people. And my clients see a difference is it's like as soon as online, they click it, they like it, they're at my client's checkout, sale, much better. But people are still caught up on print. It's sexy, but the proof really is, and I don't even get me going about these influencers, but yeah, they're not, I don't know. The thing that the interns, you guys have like, this is my first Zoom meeting. I'm very get off my lawn, but the fact that you guys can tap into the TikToks and these Instagram people and you speak that language, I don't know what's going on.
And I think that you guys offer something so important and so unique to agencies. You are bringing a whole generation of information and of real time. So like looking at it, I could see like Remy or Vanity, if you guys worked with me, you guys can be like, Lauren, like you're missing out on the boat. Like, let's take this information and let's do for TikTok. There's a great woman or a great girl that I follow, that can really, I think she'll love this. My interns do this all the time. They have created complete TikTok strategies for me. They have said to me, like, we don't need to do that. Nobody does that, Lauren. Nobody, nobody buys that, or nobody shops like that. Or, whenever I watch this, like, I always, they'll say like, oh, I love her because she does like, tutorials that like are real and not like crazy makeup like Kylie that like I would never wear or whatever. So it's like, you guys need to understand your worth. And I think that is the most important thing that you guys all need to bring to your agencies, is that don't go there assuming that you guys are like sponges and you're going to just learn so much, but understand that we learn from you too. And you're so valuable. For my agency, I have hired every intern that has worked for me. I have hired full-time. They have come back every year, and then I hire them when they graduate from college because number one, I know their work ethic. Number two, they know my agency and they know my clients and they know how we work. And number three, there's no ramp up. So it's like, if I hired, Isabella, and you worked for me, let's say for, 2 or 3 summers, then when you graduated, I can just say, okay, well, now you're my new account coordinator and you're not like a fish out of water. You guys kind of understand like exactly how this works, and you say, yeah, I love beauty and I love how, K3 works or how Megan works. And, you're so valuable to us versus hiring people that we don't know, or, hiring somebody who comes from the medical community. That's something that people are going to tell you all the time. Like, oh, PR is PR. And like, they used to tell me all the time, oh, you could sell to anybody. You could do PR for anybody, but you can't, because it's all about your contacts and it's all about your passion. And if you don't love something, that's not going to come through to the editors and to the influencers and to the bloggers and the media that you're pitching.
And how did you get your start, Lauren?
So this is funny. So talking about networking and talking about internships, my father was an EVP at a Saatchi & Saatchi advertising agency. And he said, when I was getting ready to graduate, I'm going to introduce you to somebody at Saatchi & Saatchi. And I said, I don't need you. I could do this myself. Thanks. And I looked for jobs, went to go live in Columbus, Ohio with my ex-boyfriend from college. And I couldn't find a job. And I was like, I don't know what I'm going to do. Like, maybe I'll sell advertising time. And I was offered an anchor position with CBS television in Columbus, Ohio. And I was like, no way, that's just not who I am. So I came home and my father had made a typical SVP, EVP at Saatchi & Saatchi. He just made the appointment for me. And he's like, now you got to go. So I went and I interviewed and I absolutely loved the woman who I was working with. And back then the starting salaries were like, I was getting offers of, I'm not even kidding you guys, I was getting offers of $12,000 to $14,000 a year for my salary. And I remember at Saatchi and Saatchi, she said, well, what are you looking for? And I thought, I'm going to get really like brave. And I was like, oh, I'm looking for 15,000. And she's like, how about I give you 20? And I was like, I'm rich. I'm rich. I'm done. But it turns out it was the best job of my life because, again, this goes back to what I was saying to you guys. I viewed it as, okay, this is not where I imagined myself being, at a big, giant agency. There were 4 presidents at the time. There were all these divisions. It was super corporate. I had to wear suits. It was like, looking back at it, it was crazy. But I worked for an EVP who was also the head of new business. And I literally learned everything from her. I was there for 3 years. And anytime, I remember my father telling me, anytime somebody says in that whole agency, can somebody help me? You raise your hand and you say, yeah, I can help you. And that's what I did. I was there for anybody that needed help. I would volunteer. If somebody had an event to do, yep, I can help you. And you just kind of make yourself like visible to people. And I kind of went up the ladder. And then one of my clients at the time came to me and said, listen, I want you to come with me to a beauty boutique. I'm leaving Slim Fast and I'm going to go to a beauty boutique. And I thought, okay. So I left and I went to the beauty boutique, and then I was like, I'm in love. And that's when I knew. So it's important that you guys understand that your very first job, or maybe even first 2 jobs, that might not be what you're going to do the rest of your life, but wring it dry and take as much as you can from that experience and bring it with you to the next thing that you do.
Totally. Yes. And Megan, can you break down what you do? I mean, how you do it and what beauty sort of is to you?
Yeah, I don't have I don't have a very cohesive how I got here type of way. So
Right.
I didn't go to college, but I lived in New York and Miami and LA. When I came to LA, I said, oh, I'm going to have to get, I was a model in the other 2 cities, and you pretty much age out at 21. So I'm like, great, I'm going to have to get a job now. So I started temping at all of the different entertainment agencies, and I was an assistant, and I was a terrible assistant. But I tried really hard. But what I would do is I was like, gosh, people seem to spend a lot of money in this town for parties and events, and I want to get into that. So I don't advise this, it's probably illegal. I would sit at my desk and I would wait for my agent to go home, and they would think I was working really late, and I was, but what I was doing was I would print their contact list. So I would print the contact list of every boss that I had. So then after doing this for about a year, I was like, I'm going to start an event company. And it was really great because I had Steven Spielberg's cell phone number, It's ridiculous. And so I was like, well, I need to get a big client. So I sent a fax to Aaron Spelling, to Spelling Entertainment. And I said, it was really nice to meet him. I'd never met him, but I knew he was old. And I said, it was really nice meeting you. And
Entertainment, by the way, if any of you know, it's 90210 is probably something.
Oh, yeah. Oh, they probably Aaron, he was old back.
Tori Spelling's daddy. Tori Spelling's daddy.
Angels.
But it was like he was the guy.
He was the guy.
Yeah, so I just sent a fax and I said, I'd really like to pick up where we left off on that conversation to do your parties and stuff. So I went in and I got Aaron as a client, very nice man. And I started doing events and things like that. And I actually got a lot of big clients. You get, it's like dating, like you get one good one and then they think you're good. So then you can go to the other ones. And then I had a client who was absolutely awful. He was terrible. I probably shouldn't say it, but Donald Sterling was not very nice. And so I started hating my job, and I got hired to do other events, like Miramax hired me for their Oscars stuff, and I learned about these gift bags. Now, back in the day, companies would pay huge money to be in gift bags for like the off chance that a celebrity would pick it up and a picture would be taken and it'd be in Us Weekly. So, and I was stuffing the gift bags and I was the one putting them together, and I saw how much money was being paid. And so I was like, you know what? I want to be like a gift bag. I want people to send me stuff. And what if I guarantee writing about it? So there's this new thing in 2005 coming out called a blog. And no one really knew what a blog was. but I was like, I'm going to start a blog, and I called it Meg's Makeup. And I called all of the publicists that had beauty items, and I said,
Called me.
I called Lauren, and I was like, I can guarantee you a hit, meaning like I will give you coverage. And it wasn't because I was so prolific and such a great writer. It literally was, I was the first beauty blog. I really
And you
was.
also knew that all the bells and whistles to sort of hit that would be appreciated, right?
Well, because of the other side. But I started writing, and I got a call from the New York Times. And I was like, oh my gosh, why is the New York Times calling me? And it was Natasha Singer. And she was like, what do you mean? They called me for a quote about beauty. And I was like, why are you calling me for a quote about beauty? And she said, we read you all the time. And I was like, oh my God, I have to stop blogging about like bounce checks and yeast infections. I had no idea the New York Times was reading me, like that's crazy. But then I was like, wait, the New York Times is reading me. I might be onto something. I can stop the event business. I can just write, And so I did that. And then at the time, the only people that were popular, seriously, because we had the same team, the only people really that were popular on the internet at the time, and not because I was great, just because there was nobody else, were me and Perez Hilton.
Right.
And,
I knew you were going to say Perez. I knew
yeah,
it.
Yeah. So we had the same managers and lawyers and everything. He has done significantly better than I have done, but
I don't hear about him at all anymore, so I still hear.
he's around. He's around.
Okay.
He's But okay, so that started the blog, and then I would be sent to all of the different events with other beauty editors, because I was like totally smoke and mirrors, and I couldn't believe that I would be seated at tables with people that worked at Allure and people that worked at just in style and all of them. And I was like, this is crazy. I just am like the blog lady. But they did call me the drunk white Oprah, because I would blog and something would sell out. So I kind of knew the power back then of it. And companies would reach out to me, and I made friends with all of the other editors. Like, they became my friends. And then I got divorced, and I was like, oh, I'm going to have to start making money. So I started to rep beauty products, because I could call the editor, who was my friend, and be like, I have to pay rent. You got to put this gloss on page 22. They'd be like, all right, cool. So it was all just relationship based. That's really,
That's such a huge thing. It's so true. And the relationships, it doesn't matter whether you're a blogger like Megan's saying, or an editor, or a newspaper writer. It's like networking and getting, I tell that to all my interns immediately when they start working, is that when you start in an agency, you should be reaching out to like the associate beauty editors or the assistant beauty editors, and start making relationships and saying, hey, let's go have not now because it's COVID and crazy, but like, let's have a cocktail, or let's meet up and have dinner or something, and forming those relationships. Because when I started and when Megan started in the industry, we both started as assistants, right? And then we grew up with, so now we're friends with the beauty directors and the executive editors and all of those people. And then the people who work for me are now, they're sort of, doing the same thing that we did.
Oh yeah, I've got friends that are running studios now, and they're like, remember when you used to steal that contact list?
Right. And it's like, you keep those contacts, and those contacts are your lifeblood. I mean, you guys don't know what a Rolodex is, of what Megan was talking about before, but like, I used to take I have it. I think I took a picture of it. We used to have to write down like contact information and put it on a big giant wheel, and you would spin the wheel and be like, okay, I need, and that Rolodex was your life, literally your life.
Yeah. And you know what, also, I gotta tell you, I feel like the young people today, honestly, what'll make you stand out, write thank you cards.
Yes.
People don't write thank you cards anymore. It's like, you gotta write thank you cards. It's weird. And
but that, in my agency, that is a given. Like, there is no negotiation for that. When we send out a package to anybody, whether it's a blogger with 10,000 followers, or whether it's the beauty director of Cosmopolitan magazine, every single product goes out with a business card and a handwritten note that just says, hey, Carly, thanks so much for the interest in, whatever product. If there's anything else you need, let me know, and a signed card. And that is it. There is no question that is so important right now.
For sure. And also take people cool places, really. Like Jen, I was so appreciative for the Czars group with Jen and John that I'm like, I need to do something nice for these people. I love them. So I'm like, but you know if I invite them to Applebee's, they're not going. But if I invite them to the Polo Bar,
You saw that commercial this morning too, huh?
no,
Oh,
no. But I'm
great.
saying, like if I say to Jen and John, let's go to the Polo Bar, they're gonna go. They'll meet me
But
at the.
and it's not even just that. You guys need to be creative, right? It's like, what do you guys like to do? Do you guys like to go get manicures? Do you like to go see Broadway shows? Do you want to go see a Yankee game? We do all of that, and that helps build relationships. So you need to find the common ground between what you like and what, you know, the editors like or the media likes. And it doesn't have to be, you know, back in the day, it was just lunch, or breakfast or whatever. Now it's like literally anything goes. Like I've done massages at the Mandarin Oriental, and I've done the PBR rodeo at Madison Square Garden. It kind of doesn't matter. And as long as you're face to face and spending time and building relationships, that's all that matters.
Yeah. You know, Megan, something you said before sort of is directly related to a question that we had. And I think that, you know, you came from a modeling background. So, you know, knowing something about fashion, but I guess that one of the interns is asking, does having a background in fashion help working in beauty PR?
I don't know. I don't think, to be quite honest, I really think, especially now in these days where everybody is being laid off, like my contact at the LA Times, she writes beauty, but guess what? She's writing fashion too. So it's kind of like it's a small
Fishbowl.
yeah, it really is. So, I mean, I think at this point, I don't know if Lauren, if you agree with me, but I kind of find like the same person that's writing about cute handbags is writing about lip gloss, is
Yeah.
writing about, you know, so I think it won't hurt you to be in fashion, but I don't think you need it at all.
You know, what you're going to find in a lot of mid to larger agencies is that the consumer division is going to include both. So you're not going to have the option of just working on fashion or beauty.
Well,
You're
and
probably,
especially now, with budgets being cut, you know, I think it's so important that you guys understand that, like, we used to spend a ton of money, right? It's like whatever we would rent boats. Like when we used to do trade shows, we would literally rent boats and bring, you know, the media and bring the retailers on boats. Now with budgets being cut, like Megan and Jen were both saying, one person is doing so many things, but that's on the agency side as well.
Yeah, it's true.
I mean, you at any given time you could have, you know, a liquor, a lip gloss, a hotel, you know, an accessories line. You're gonna figure out what you like.
Yeah, I used to say it's like you have to be like a chameleon, right? So it's like if you want to be in fashion, but you can't find a job in fashion, but you can find a job in beauty, or you can find a job in some other related industry. You do what you do and you do it really well, and then people will come to you. You know, it's like I get people that are not in beauty, I get people that are in fashion, or I get people that are in different, they're in PR, but they're in different categories. Not like, I don't get people that are in like pharmaceutical or pet, but you know, the related categories. It's like, as long as you have what it takes and you are outgoing and you follow up and you know, forge these relationships, then of course I'm going to give somebody a shot. It's also like a feeling, you know, like if I sit down and I meet, like if I see like, you know, Amelia and we have a face-to-face interview and we talk, you know, you just get a feeling, just like you guys would get a feeling about me or Megan or Jen or Sally. We get a feeling about you. And like, sometimes we're like, you know what, we're just going to take a chance on that. And like, you know, even though she's doing fashion, like she would be a great beauty publicist. So keep your options open.
Right. And, you know, another Grace asks us, technology is constantly changing. We were talking before about Instagram and the whole idea of influencers. How do we adjust to these changes, and how tentative are our clients to jump on board and to accept these changes and go ahead and make these advancements that they have to make?
I think that's a great question. And I can tell you from experience from the agency side and also from the client side. So some clients and also potential clients, Megan can talk to this too, they'll say, what's your strength? And I feel like that's a loaded question, because if I say one thing and they're looking for another thing, then I'm not going to be able to pitch the business. So I think from a client perspective, they want to hear that you're touching on everything so that you have a very well-rounded and a very synergistic program, right? From the agency standpoint, from me, back in the day when Megan was talking about blogs, we remember when, you know, the first blogger, Megan was like the first blogger that didn't come from a magazine, but the first blogger that went from a magazine that left basically said to us, I'm quitting Allure, or I can't even remember who it was, but I'm quitting Allure and I'm going to start a blog. And we were like, we don't know what the hell a blog is, but we're going to support you. So whatever you guys need, we're there. And we started really, you know, forging at the forefront of this like blogger craze. So when a client would say, we would say to a client, listen, we're going to send these products to a blog. They're like, what's a blog? So we would explain that. And that's how you kind of stay ahead of everything that's happening in the industry. So then from the blogs, then it became influencers, right? I'm an influencer. I'm like, I don't know. Okay, I'm an influencer too. What does that mean? I influence my family. So then we stayed ahead of the influencers and we sent product to the influencers. So I think you need to be very nimble, and you need to kind of search out what's going on and keep your finger on the pulse of like, okay, I've been hearing a lot about this like influencer thing. Maybe we should like kind of like look at what's going on there, and make sure that like you bring it to like your bosses and say, listen, you guys, I don't know if you've heard about this, but like, you know, these blogs are like a thing, or these influencers are a thing, or this TikTok is going to be a thing. So I think it's super important that with technology, you kind of like listen and you look at what's going on around you. And even if it's not something you want to jump into right away, like there's a new Twitter that now everybody's talking about that's like supposed to be like, there, you know, there's no rules and you can say whatever you want and nobody's going to like delete you or mute you or give you a warning. Do I want to jump into that right now? Not necessarily. But am I listening and am I watching what's going on with that to make the right move? Then yes. So I think technology is tricky. I think some of the things you want to jump on as quick as you can, like TikTok, you knew like kind of exploded. But there's other things you want to kind of take a step back and just watch, because if it goes down in flames, you don't want your client to be involved with it.
Right. Right. Megan, anything to add to that?
I'm just so bitter with these influencers, I guess. I just stopped, like, I just stopped doing the blog because I was like, I just felt like, how are these people, they post a picture of them doing yoga on a rock and there's like 10 million people saying things, and I just didn't understand it. So I think that also, I really don't want to understand it because I feel like I only have so much manpower in my head. So that's really good for interns. You know what I mean? Like I need someone that does understand it, because at this point, this dog is not learning that trick. You know what I mean?
Totally. That's what these interns can be helpful with. That's a great point. Mm-hmm.
Totally. Like, I reached out, I know Lauren's got great younger people, not that Lauren's not young, but she's got great younger people.
But Lauren's not young.
So, you know, when my client said to me, I need to be verified on TikTok, I mean, you know, I went to Czars, and then Lauren said, you know, I have somebody and we're working with Lauren now, because I don't know how to do that. I think also you have to know what you know how to do.
Good at.
A bit more of the traditional stuff. I have no idea how to go about these TikTok
right,
things.
They're experts in every category. So.
Yeah, but I mean, that's what I think is great for the interns. You guys are bringing all that to the table, because there's a lot of lazy people like me that would just be happy to pay you guys to do it, that don't want to learn it, you know?
Yeah. Vanity's asking, you know, when we talked about the handwritten note, great question, Vanity, about how do I write a handwritten note to somebody without feeling like I'm stalking them. And I think that one of the ways you can definitely do it is you can go on Cision and get their magazine address, or you can write them an email. You know, it's acceptable to write a very nice email to them.
Absolutely. But, you know, in speaking to that, and this is a really interesting time right now, right? Because nobody's working from their offices. I'm home, Megan's home, we're all home. So one of the things that you could do, Vanity and everybody, is that what we do is we reach out to the people that we don't know and say, hey, listen, do you mind giving us your home address? We want to send you something. And in the very beginning of COVID, we got a lot of pushback saying, I'm not accepting anything, because like everybody didn't know with packages and the germs. Now we've been sending product out, but we send it to their houses instead of sending it to their offices. So I don't think it's creepy. I don't think you should think it's creepy. It sounds totally creepy. I totally get it, but it's not. Like, you know, it's coming from a good, like,
Don't show up at their door, you know, that
that's
might
a little creepy. That's totally creepy. But, you know, sending a handwritten note, like, or even sending, like, if an editor has a baby or or just got engaged or just got a promotion, like, we send flowers, we send, you know, something personal that, you know, that with the baby's name on it, or, you know, if somebody's dog passes away, we send flowers. So it's not creepy at all. And it's that just, again, reinforces your relationship that you have with them.
And then, you know, Jordy points out something interesting, and I think this is another generation. She's saying there are journalists, especially young ones, who are apprehensive about accepting PR gifts. And how would you approach this bride vibe?
Well, that's a great, absolutely great point. So there are news magazine, I shouldn't say news magazines, there are newspapers like the
New York Times.
Right, the New York Times, the LA Times. Absolutely no gifts. They will send it back to you. There are other, like, back in the day, we used to know, agencies would send one Christian Louboutin shoe and then say, hey, come to the event, you'll get the matching shoe. So it was a flat out bribe. They would be sending expensive Hermes scarves. And remember, Megan, back in the day, we all, like, all these crazy expensive gifts. Now, it's more creativity. So now, for instance, I'll give you guys a good example. I have a client who's a skincare client, and it's a green and very clean brand. So we were trying to think of, like, what is everybody doing at home? Like, this is crazy. Like, we could send products, but, like, how are we going to cut through the clutter and make a difference? So what we did was we got a terrarium company in Brooklyn that basically builds terrariums. We worked with them on branding because my client's brand was all yellow. And so we got yellow sand and a cactus with a yellow flower. We sent all of the kit to each of the editors to their homes, along with the products. And we did a Zoom just like this of the terrarium building class. And the amount of press we got was insane. Immediately, Hello Giggles, Us Weekly placements, all of the placements. So rather than sending gifts for no reason, you have to make it kind of work with what you're doing.
And by the way, a lot of publications will take gifts.
Oh, totally. But the problem is that a lot of brands that Megan and I both work with indie brands. We don't work with, like, the big giant brands that have, you know, well, nobody now has an unlimited budget, but the smaller indie brands are looking for more creativity versus just, let's send out a holiday gift that's just a crazy over the top gift.
And
I wish I did have.
I don't know if you've had this experience, but sometimes you send a gift to somebody at Vogue or, you know, one of the top editors, and they'll say, thank you very much, and nothing will happen.
Yeah.
That's the risk you take. That's, you know, that's 100% of a risk you take.
Right.
When there used to be the poll section in the New York Times and Sunday Styles, the editor used to call us when I repped Henry Bendel, the department store in Manhattan. Every week she'd call in samples. Every single week, never got a hit, never got returns.
Yeah.
never got returned.
Nope.
There's always people like that.
Yep. She'd call in like 5 pashminas, you know, and some La Mer skin cream, like every week.
Yeah. But for every, you know, what's so funny is that's such a great point, Jen. For every person that you do that just knocks you down so much and it's so discouraging. But then for every one of those, you'll get a placement and you're like, yes, like, you know, for not even sending anything. So it kind of balances out. Totally. You know, and you kind of learn, like, what people like, what people don't like. You have to work within your budgets. Like, my client just said to me last week, like, look, we have a budget of $500. What can you do? I'm like, $500? Like, I mean, I can't even send coffee to everybody for $500, but you got to figure it out.
Right.
What are you going to do?
And Kristen is saying that, you know, the email is great, the sending something to their home is great, but also getting on the phone with them. So you may be collecting phone numbers for these people as well at home, right? Their cell numbers.
Yeah, I mean, we find that less and less, and Megan, you can, I don't know what you're thinking.
Honestly, never, ever.
Nobody really speaks.
Only after I'm friends with someone can I send a text and say, hey, do you have 5 seconds? Can I run something by you?
Yeah. No, I think because it's just the days are short.
About phones, you know?
So people don't have home phones anymore.
Yeah.
No, that's true. But even with cell phones, like I just find that people, there's not enough time in the day really. So it's like, am I going to spend 10 minutes on a call with Lauren, or am I going to spend 10 minutes on doing my article that I'm on deadline for? So, I think that,
Yeah, that's the point also, because, we have a friend that writes like 10 articles a day because the pay too, the cut for these. Okay, so just so you know, I'm also a writer. So from my blog, I led me to writing. So I write for different publications, but I shouldn't say who it is, but a publication you think would pay a lot. I get I'm one of their this is such a sad state. I'm one of their highest paid writers. And this is not for like a little roundup. This is like a real article. This would be like a couple thousand words, and they pay me $200.
I was going to say $200 is a good
And that's the high end. And I have friends that are getting $50 an article. So they have to churn just to live, like 4 articles out a day. And when you're doing that, they don't want to get on the phone, just make it quick, just send an
email.
Yeah. Email. Yeah. I would say, I would advise, don't try to get anybody on the phone. They don't like it because everybody's pay's been, because this is a really tough time. I think you should all become electricians. It's a tough time we're in new uncharted territory, So
I do think also that there was a question earlier about, selling through Instagram and through our social media. And I think that if that was a great tip that you all gave. And I think that if there are things to be working on in these times, it's trying to figure out how to really separate everything and figure out, okay, what is it that's trending in the beauty industry? What can I learn more about? How can I figure out who the go-to people are and what the go-to blogs or influencers or writers are? And I think that this is a time for that.
Oh yeah, for sure. For sure. And I think that one of the best things that you guys can do, and something that's so helpful and will be so appreciated and recognized, is exactly what Sally was kind of saying, and taking it to like the next level. So if I say, hey, Kira, I need a list. I need influencers that would be great for, a hair care line for natural hair, let's say, then you would go back. What you would do is, the way that you kind of find that out, the research that you do, it's so helpful when you can figure and trust me, we never let people hang out to dry. We always kind of teach, and we're constantly, I'm still teaching my vice president how to do things, but to know, like, okay, let me Google, like, who are the top bloggers for natural hair, and coming back with that and saying, okay, here are the top 10 and here are their numbers, taking it from A to Z versus taking it from A to F and then having me or Megan or whoever say, okay, but can you get their numbers too? Trying to figure out how to give a complete picture versus just what you're asked for it goes miles and miles and miles of appreciation.
Or you Google celebrity natural hair and you figure out who are the ones
totally.
that have natural
The
hair.
research the research that you guys have at your fingertips with Google alone is, I can't even tell you what Megan and I and Jen used to go through, and Sally, like we used to go through, we had like books and books that we used to have to look through and then call, and there was no email. Like, are you kidding? Like, there were no computers. We had word processors. I thought that was the greatest thing in the world. So you guys have so much at your fingertips that, again, I go back to saying that you guys bring so much to the table. Show what you're worth and show how you can kind of, be an asset to an agency.
And also, what's also really good is, like we were saying, everybody comes up together, right? So when I send out my Christmas cards, I have like hundreds of them, right? So the people get in, the beauty editor doesn't really want to know you. but her assistant might. So get in with the assistants, get in with everybody around your age, because you all come up together and everybody gets there quicker if you help each other, you know? So my whole thing is you can get anything you want out of life as long as you let people get what they want out of life too. If we all work together, it's much quicker. And the people that were like, you know, assistants and stuff at those agencies I was at, they're running the agencies. Like now I'll be like, you know, I need Ariana Grande for something, or I need this one for something, or, you know, I know the managers because we were all peons together. So.
Great point.
Megan, do you address all your Christmas cards yourself?
Yes, of course.
Oh, I was just curious. I was worried your system might be downloading your list.
Yeah, no. This is a CIA operation here. Nobody's looking at the list. Can't bullshit a bullshitter.
And one of the gals is asking, Catherine, saying, okay, we're talking about social media a lot, but is there anything specifically that you could say that I should highlight in terms of social media skills?
Yeah. I mean, for sure. I think that by telling everybody what platforms you're the most comfortable with, again, this goes back to if a client asks me, what's your strength? You kind of don't want to say one thing. You want to make it like a very well-rounded thing. So I think that saying, you know, all the different platforms that you're familiar with and you use yourself personally. I think that, you know, researching and, you know, reaching out to people, and I've commented, and, you know, I think just making yourself as valuable as possible, because if you come to me and say, you know, hey, I work with TikTok, you know, Megan would say to you, I don't know what TikTok is. I don't do TikTok. Great. Like, you're hired because I don't know, you know, like you're going to be in charge of that. Like somebody that works for me said, it would be great. Can we start a TikTok for the agency? I said, knock yourself out, start a TikTok. I'm not going to do it. So, you know, by doing things like that, you know, social media, for the most part, agencies will look to your generation for social media.
Right. I mean, Instagram stories as well. You know,
Yep.
Obviously there are things that you're going to gain a lot from in the environment that we're in now. You know, I have to say one thing that has been a great conversation. We have about 5 minutes left. And one of the things that I've noticed is that we are primarily women on board today. And while this is the case, I am going to tell you that I've worked in beauty PR for many years. We represented Aqua de Parma, which is a fantastic fragrance, and they have a lot of beauty products. And the men love beauty.
Oh, yeah.
The male editors at Esquire, GQ, Playboy, I mean, the influencers, they just have a huge following. And I see Jonathan's on, but I don't see many men. And it is an area where men excel as well. I just want to say
Let me tell you something. The beauty director at Oprah Magazine, a guy. One of the top beauty skincare gurus, OMG Bart, a guy. Like we don't see, like for me, I would hire a guy in a second. Like I have no qualms about guys or girls or however you identify with yourself, as long as you love what you do and you have a passion, then great. If there's no passion, then because again, if you don't have a passion for what you do, then there is not going to be any passion that's going to be translated to the media. So what's the point?
Great. Any questions in our last minutes that we have? If anybody wants to raise their hand or say anything, Megan or Lauren, if you want to make a closing point, please feel free to.
Megan, you want to go first?
Sure. Okay, closing point. I think, you know, just take risks. You can do it when you're young. You know, now if I were stealing lists and things, I'd probably go to jail. You can get away with a lot. Just put yourself out there and go for it. I think that people like gumption and they appreciate the hustle. And if the whole thinking outside the box and things, like write the note. Don't maybe stop by the house, but you know, I mean, assert yourself. People appreciate that because a lot of people are lazy. And what they said, life is what 99% is showing up type of thing. Like, just not to be so cliche, but just go for it. Just because, you know what, you have to be fearless. This is a tough time. Put yourself out there, you know? That's all.
I agree. I mean, I think too, adding to that is that your generation, unfortunately, has this stigma attached that it's the millennial generation, right? It's like that you guys want so much, but you don't give so much. I can't tell you that every single day there is a conversation at my agency about an intern or about somebody who we just hire. Don't PR is not a 9 to 5 job. And you guys need to understand that straight away. And if that is not something that you want to like dive into and understand that, like, you know, I just right before this Zoom, I had another Zoom and my client said, God, Lauren, like, you know, I email you or I text you at 11:30 at night and you answer me right away. Well, I have to. So it's like, you know, if that's not something that you're interested in, then get out of PR and just get a job in retail from 9 to 5. You guys need to put in time. You guys need to put in effort. It is not 9 to 5. If I reach out to my team at 7:30 at night or 8 o'clock at night, I hope that they answer me back because I'm still working. I don't expect, listen, I'm also very big on life-work balance, and that's very important. But we all have a job to do. So I also let my team, if they want to go take a yoga class in the middle of the day or a cooking class, or they want to go to their son or daughter's baseball game, knock yourself out, do whatever you need to do. As long as at the end of the day, the job is getting done, that's fine. But show your bosses that you're in this and that you're here and you're doing it for, you know, as long as you need, that it's not like 5 o'clock and you're not going to be reachable until 9 o'clock in the morning.
Yeah. I'm going to hand it over to Jen DeMarchi for closing remarks in just a moment. Just want to say thank you so much. But one thing I did want to say that you'll all see common themes in this talk, that beauty PR lists, that small agencies, big agencies, boutique, gifting, all of these themes keep coming up in all of our conversations. So that's just terrific that you spoke about this. And Jen, what do you have to add?
I just wanted to say thank you and point out that our intern for Czars, Melanie Clark, has been running the Zoom. So thank you, Melanie.
Thank you.
Good job, Melanie.
Melanie is a PR major at Hofstra, graduating in the fall. And I'm sure she'll be looking for a job. And I just want to thank everybody for coming out. It's always a pleasure. I love you, Megan and Lauren.
And do you want to say something about Rising Czars?
Oh, yes, I forgot to put the link. We'll send you guys out a link. We'd like you to join our new group, which is called Rising Czars. Is its own standalone website for all you folks starting out in the industry.
Free.
It's totally free and it's great networking. It hasn't launched yet, but just apply. I'm going to let everybody in.
Melanie put it in. Great, Melanie. Thank you.
And if any of you have any questions or want to talk, I'm happy to talk and give you guys advice. And I'm sure Megan is too. So you, Jen and Sally can give you guys our emails as well.
I think everybody should try and connect on LinkedIn. Might be a easier way to do that.
Yeah.
So thank you all. Have a great night.
And we'll see you Wednesday. We have gossip on Wednesday.
Yeah,
Ooh, that's fun.
Join. It's going to be great.
Fun. Thanks, everyone.
Bye.